In this video, I'm going to tell you about my booty. Well, my Gen Con 2023 booty. So Gen Con 2023 is now in the books, very possibly the record books. It is the biggest Gen Con that's ever been, even pre-pandemic. The old record was just shy of 70,000 evidently, and it was over 70,000 attendees this last week at Gen Con. Board gamers, role players, miniature players, collectible card game folks, anime enjoyers, people who are into cosplay, like all that kind of stuff. Mostly the gaming, those other things, and a lot of other things that are adjacent to gamers were all things that you'd find at Gen Con. Giant, massive dealer area. I get people all the time who say, hey, you should take a video and show all the booths at the... It would take hours. There's something like 30 rows just alone of the... It's just massive. It's absolutely huge, and there's a ton of people, and it's hard to get around if you have a problem with crowds. Gen Con may not be for you. I got to be honest. It's packed, huge. And it's not just this one building. It takes over the entirety of the convention center there in Indianapolis, and also the football stadium next door where the Indianapolis Colts play. They take over all of that as well. So one of the big things you do there, though, when you're there, obviously, such a massive dealer area, is you buy things. So here's the things that I brought back from Gen Con. Let's start with some weird stuff. I picked up on the first day this patch. It's a goat. It's true. If you've ever seen the movie The Witch, or as some people like to pronounce it, The Vivitch. Anyway, it's a cool movie. It's a great horror movie. I love it. There's a character in there. Well, it's not a character, it's a goat. But his name is Black Phillip. And I don't know if this is supposed to be exactly Black Phillip from the movie, but it reminds me a lot of Black Phillip, and so I'm on board with it. Like I said, it's a cloth patch on black with silver stitching. It's pretty cool. Not sure where I'm going to put it on yet, but I'm going to put it on something. So these are some of the things you can kind of find very frequently at Gen Con. There's also a big art kind of area within the much bigger dealer area where artists are have booths and stuff like that and sell things, sell prints and all that kind of stuff. And I like to go through there just because the art is very interesting, but sometimes I also like to, buy little trinkets and things like that. This is a little wooden pin with a cool little skull printed on it. It's a little pinback kind of thing from the art of Babs Webb, who has a website, babsweb with 2bs.com. But I liked this thing a lot. I thought I would put it on something. I liked to go through specifically the last couple of years, the art area, because I'm also going there to look for illustrators that Vince and I might use for, our game company. But I also like to pick up weird random stuff like this. I'm not a role player. I started with D&D way back in 5th grade, like 2nd edition or whatever it was. And that's kind of how I got into this whole kind of nerd gaming sort of thing. But I don't really play role-playing games that much these days. But every once in a while, I stumble across stuff that I'm like, this is a role-playing game. I'll probably never buy it, but I want to read it and look at the layout and all that kind of stuff. I picked up 2 of those. Well, technically, I guess it was 3. The Hillgrabe City and Adventure supplement for the Fallen role-playing game. And then hopefully the Fallen role-playing game is in here as well. This was just cool looking stuff, and I was talking to these folks, and so I bought these. I haven't even had a chance really to open them up and look at them yet, but they're just cool little thin books. They're kind of zine sort of RPGs, a little bit lower budget, but cool artwork, and I picked those up. And then the other end of the spectrum as far as higher budget and much, this is something called the Old Gods of Appalachia role-playing game. It's published by Monty Cook Games, you've probably heard of before. It's based off of a podcast, which I haven't heard yet, but I'm going to start listening to it very soon. But I had a bunch of friends talking about this, and it was, I think, just being released at Gen Con, this RPG. I'm very interested in finding out more about the podcast, but the RPG is pretty amazing looking as far as just the insides of stuff. Like, again, it's horror-based, Appalachian mountains, spooky mystery, kind of all kinds of neat stuff, snake handling, and all that kind of jazz. It's maybe just got the slightest, like not a real Lovecraft vibe, but they're in the same neighborhood, right? Well, I mean, one's East Coast and one's Appalachia, but yeah. So I picked this up because it was very cool, and I wanted to try that out. And it's a little bit outside of my normal zone of the type of things I pick up, but, still, when you're at Gen Con. A couple of other weird pieces. Weird in that I don't normally buy stuff from Games Workshop when I'm at a big convention because I can get Games Workshop stuff anywhere, but sometimes that stuff is exclusive just to events. So here is the Commissar's Duty, which is a commemorative series, fancy. You can only get this at like Adepticon, Gen Con, Nova Open, probably LVO, stuff like that at an event. So I already have one of these. I bought one of these at Adepticon, if you watch the Adepticon booty video, but I want a kit bash one of them, so I decided I better buy a second one, so I have one that's still in good shape and one that I will screw up in some fashion. And since I'm building Imperial Guard Army, I figured this is cool, so I picked this up. This was neat. And then I was at the Modifius booth, who make the Fallout, Wasteland Warfare miniatures game, and I picked up these cool pieces of chunky resin terrain, and it's not too Fallout oriented. This could be used in lots of different games, not necessarily sci-fi particularly, but more apocalyptic and things like that. I mean, you have like a Nuka-Cola thing here, so I guess it's a little bit on brand, but otherwise everything else is just fridges and barrels and tires and cinder blocks, and they're just really nice, designed obviously to be barricades, and the whole thing was like $28. And I was like, for this much resin, I was pretty impressed, so I picked these up too. And then some hobby stuff. One of the first things I picked up when I got there on the dealer hall on Thursday was from this thing from Games and Gears. This is a collapsible water cup for painting. So, it's collapsible. You can put it in your luggage or whatever real easy. And the bottom of it is all textured, you can see there. So that when you're rubbing your paintbrush in there, the bristles are bouncing off of those little textures on the bottom of the glass, and it helps to get the paint off of the bristles a little bit more easily. And it, was inexpensive and folds down real nice. So I picked that up. I also picked up a little tiny pot here of Stynylrez Black Airbrush Primer. I haven't used Stynylrez in a really super crazy long time. Last time I had a big bottle of it, it separated and got a little weird, but that was, almost 10 years ago. So I wanted to try it out again and see what it was like. And it was just $5 right there. So I picked it up. It was pretty cool. And then also this Lethal Shadows Gaming Paint Scepter. What this is, I haven't put it together yet. But basically it's a very, very fancy ergonomic metal handle for holding onto your miniatures. Kind of see it here in the package. It's milled out of aluminum and stainless steel. And it's adjustable, and it kind of pinches the base of that, of the thing, but it also has its own base, and it's very adjustable and all that kind of stuff. So it's called the Paint Scepter. Great power within, and with it, great responsibility. So you got that going on there. Comes with the pins, comes with plastic tubing that you can replace as you get more paint on it. Shows you the instructions on how to do it. Heard about it for a while, wanted to try it out, see what it was like. And then lastly, got a little bit of Artist Opus dry brush, a little Series D right here. And this is, I think there's 5 brushes in here. Yeah. So I got a demo at the booth this year, just before the end of the entire convention. So like late on Sunday afternoon. And Ross from Fohammer gave me a nice demo on using these. And there's a bunch of videos as well on the Artist Opus website. So I've always wanted to kind of give these a try and see, like, it's not so much that these are about normal dry brushing. These are more about using their own sort of process to do a lot more than just the last step when you dry brush something. It's a lot more about blending and doing a lot of things like that. And there's like a little pot here that you put water in with a sponge and all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I watched the demo, and I know there's obviously videos on their website, but I think they're doing more soon. I just watched one about OSL that was kind of interesting. So I want to try these out. And so they gave me a set of these to take a look at, and I'm looking forward to giving them a try. I'm not usually a dice collector, but it's kind of hard when you go to Gen Con. There's a lot of dice at Gen Con. Same place I picked up that goat patch. They also had these dice as well, and these are your normal RPG dice, and they're a bright yellow, and they have nice, black numbers on them, and they're also covered in blood. It's not real blood, I'm pretty sure. When real blood dries, I think it turns like brown. So this is probably paint. But they just looked really cool, and so I was like, all right, I'm gonna pick these up. So I got these. Again, they were right there at the goat patch place. And then Chessex, which is a company that's been making dice forever, they had 3 or 4 different booths at Gen Con. And I picked up a pair of these giant, well, they're not giant. I've got much bigger 6-siders actually, but these are pretty good sized. These are way bigger than normal, and they're very bright, very easy to read, and I'm using these for tracking command points in Combat Patrol and regular 40K. When I use my regular dice and set them to the side and say, this is where I'm going to put this right here, and now that means I have 5 command points or whatever. And then at some point within a minute, I pick it up and shake it as I'm attacking someone, and then I screw. So this way I shouldn't do that, hopefully. And they also sell these cool dice for kind of tracking like wounds and things like that. So when you start here, you got 1 wound, right? You start here, you got 1 wound, but there's an arrow that points you to, this is where you go to 2, this is where you go to 3, this is where you go to 4, this is where you go to 5. Normal 20-siders, the numbers are spread around in a specific kind of pattern. And then it's hard, you're spinning the dice constantly. When you're on 4 and you need to find 5 and you're like, you're spinning and spinning and spinning. These things give you the arrow to tell you where the next one is. So that's actually kind of nice because then you can track it a lot easier. So I got a pair of those as well. And then I bought a set of the fanciest dice I've ever purchased. Easily. These are by Metallic Dice Games, which I think has just recently rebranded themselves. Now they're called Fan Roll. R-O-L-L. Anyway, these dice are very cool. And again, the most expensive set of dice that I've ever purchased. These are not some sort of semi-precious stone or anything like that. But what they are, you can get to focus, is liquid on the inside. Can you see that? So when you roll them and they stop, they keep moving. All the fluid on the inside there kind of keeps moving, and it's pretty cool. It's subtle. It's not, it's not crazy in your face, but it's definitely there, and I really kind of dig it. So I pulled the trigger. I'm not made out of stone or, dice or whatever. But so I picked these up, and again, it's a normal set of RPGs. Also, the D4 is massive, which I kind of like because small D4s sometimes annoy me. I don't know why. Anyway, so that's the dice that I picked up while I was at Gen Con. Try and stop yourself from getting some dice while you're there. So now we're on the last section of my booty. Doesn't even make any sense. Anyway, Monster Fight Club is a company that I've known of for quite a while. They started making terrain, like these very nice pre-painted trees that are very great for gaming and stuff like that, and they've expanded into other things, and they've expanded into making their own games. They did a Kickstarter a couple years back for a game called Cyberpunk Red Combat Zone. It is a skirmish game based off of the Cyberpunk Red role-playing game. And it's finally now for sale. I think you can probably get it at stores, distribution, that kind of stuff. It's ready to go, and they were selling it there. Now, it is surprising how much stuff is in here. Let's just flip this over. I can show you probably a little bit easier. Okay, so you get 6 Maelstrom figures. If you've ever played any of the Cyberpunk, like the Cyberpunk video game, you'll know who Maelstrom are. There's also Tiger Claws. That's the Asian gang. This is the mostly cybernetic gang. And you get 6 of these and 6 of those. They're nice figures. They're made out of plastic. They come with bases, the whole deal. You get a board that you play on. I thought it was a paper mat, but it is actually like a board, like a Kill Team board or a Warcry board or any kind of, thicker, like normal, like board, game board. It's also 22 by 30, which is the size of Kill Team and Warcry. So that's also a smart move. You also get 3 different ruined buildings, which are made out of printed cardboard and have plastic bits to hold them all together. And there's also a hard plastic shipping container that is you can pack flat. It's all, you take it all apart and then pack, but yeah. So and then you get the cards and the tokens and dice, multi-part combat zone terrain kit, plastic container terrain, 22 by 30 double-sided, it says paper game mat, but it's board. It's not paper. But it is double-sided as well. It comes with some plastic range rulers and some dice, tokens, a 44-page book, 6 Maelstrom, 6 Tiger Claws, a bunch of cards, scenario stuff, blah, 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 all that jazz. It's a heavy box. There's a lot in here. There's terrain, all kinds of things. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. It's kind of neat. Figuring it's probably $160 or $180, $120. And this was not a convention special. From what I can tell, that's normal retail, 120 bucks. So I was like, okay. And then I kind of like paid, was watching a demo and everything like that. And I was like, this is all very interesting and to my, to what I'm looking for. I like this concept quite a bit. And then Polygon.com, which you've possibly seen before. It's very gamer oriented, predominantly focuses on video games, but also has an entire section that focuses on tabletop games. They came out with a review during Gen Con that said it was better than Necromunda. So I'm like, all right, I'll bite. So got this, and then also got an Arasaka crew as well. These guys were like, I think these are $50, and you get, this one's got 6 models inside. And again, the cards and all the stuff that you need, parts and things like that. These guys are pretty chunky. These are the corporate dudes, if you remember from the game. And then I also got Lawmen. So we've got Lawmen, Arasaka, Tiger Claws, and Maelstrom. And this is pretty much everything you need. Oh, by the way, I also picked up some cool scenery that's designed for cyber stuff. So I can paint this up, and then you got a little bit of extra scatter terrain. We have 4 terminals and 2 transmitters. It could be used, as, I suppose probably objectives and things like that. And then, of course, there's also an entire box full of cargo containers. So the black one that's in the big main kit here, right? You've got that one plus 4 other colors. And again, these are all flat packed. You get 5 of these for $50. And they go together like Legos, and they'll stack on top of each other. I'm going to do a video where I take some of these and I try to weather them up a little bit to make them a little bit more realistic, kind of grungy looking and things like that. So I've gone in pretty heavy on the Cyberpunk the Cyberpunk Red combat zone stuff, and I'm very interested in trying this out. I'm going to be starting to build some of this stuff over the course of this month, and then hopefully we'll get a battle report at some point. I also picked up a whole bunch of regular models that they make as well, more for the RPG. These I suppose could work for the skirmish game, but they don't come with cards. These are designed more for the RPG, and I'm going to be using them for all kinds of other things. But I picked up a bunch of edge runners and all kinds of cool stuff like that because the models are very cool and I like them. So that's pretty much everything. I tried not to go too ham. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. I forgot. I don't have it here yet because it's being shipped, which is also kind of a nice thing. When you go to a convention, especially if you fly, and I didn't fly, but I rode with a whole bunch of other people. We didn't have lots of space in the vehicle. Sometimes the places will ship stuff to you. Like if you buy it there, they will ship it to you for free. I am getting a new case from Battle Foam. It's the Pack 160. And it is a smaller skirmish case, and I'm getting some foam for it that's designed for combat patrol. So a Death Watch foam set, and a Space Marines foam set, and an Astra Militarum foam set. And they will fit in this nice case, and it'll be great. But those are getting shipped to me. So it was good to see those folks again at Gen Con, because I hadn't seen them in a little bit. So yeah, that's everything now. So all this stuff... The thing that's great about Gen Con is the ability to see not just, the stuff that you're interested in. When you go to Adepticon, let's say, it's a great convention, but you're not going to see a lot of weird things there, maybe like a cool goat patch or a really interesting RPG that you're going to pick up and maybe you'll play it someday, but maybe you'll just read it and enjoy it, that kind of thing. That's one of the things that I really like about Gen Con. Adepticon is still my favorite convention because it speaks specifically to the things I'm interested in, and it's also not so entirely giantly massive, but Gen Con is still a lot of fun, and you can end up, putting a good-sized dent in your wallet with all the stuff that you bring home.